Hi friends, welcome back to Baking from Books, Winter Thrills and Chills edition. On this second edition of Baking from Books Winter Chills, we are talking about No Exit by Taylor Adams. Very popular thriller. If you haven't already heard the hype about it, do go check this book out. It is no joke. It is twisty, it is suspenseful, it is tense. Like this recipe, it turned out to be not for me, at least not right now. But it's very exciting. There was a film adaptation from Hulu, I think, which apparently didn't quite do it justice. So if you like this kind of book, definitely go check out No Exit by Taylor Adams. There's a child's life at stake, there is a battle of wits, there's a cast of strangers that you don't know who to trust, and there's lots of relatable experiences in snow and cold weather. In honor of this book, we are trying to make a gingerbread truck stop because it is set at a very relatable rest area. And unfortunately, I decided to be ambitious and go for the I-80 truck stop, the local landmark here in the Quad Cities, and it did not go super well. I'm going to include a photo of my first attempt where I tried to capture the big fancy entrance, and it did not look like it at all. So we scaled back a little bit, and this video is me attempting to make the simplified entrance for the I-80 truck stop, and it's sort of going better, but as always, my headline is, do not be intimidated by doing things from scratch. If I can do it, you can do it. It is very possible, very doable. In this case, I don't think it's necessarily worth it to make it all from scratch. There are plenty of affordable kits at like Target and Walmart and grocery stores, and I personally would recommend you buy one of those kits because, as you will see, I am not going to take the time to decorate because it is so much work just getting the house built. There's definitely two parts to a gingerbread house: the making, the building, and the decorating. 3 parts, I lied. And I did not get to the decorating part. Didn't make it. It was so much work baking and building it that I just ran out of steam. So, that said, let's watch some baking chaos as I show you how to make gingerbread from scratch and how not to build a gingerbread truck stop. Step 1 is obviously making the dough, the gingerbread dough, and that is, frankly, the easy part. I have come with my ingredients pre-measured out today. Original fans will know that I did not always know to do this. So you start by basically dumping everything in a bowl and mixing it together. There is 1 stick of butter at room temperature. You'll remember from your baking tips in the recipe packet that the temperature of the butter is important. Whatever the recipe tells you to do, definitely follow it because it affects the outcome. 1 stick of butter, room temperature, combined with a ½ cup of dark brown sugar, various spices, predictable spices like cloves, cinnamon, ginger, and then baking soda. I will include a list, but I'm not going to list them all here. Spices, and then molasses or corn syrup. One thing I learned from making this recipe is I think molasses is gross. Absolutely disgusting. It gets stickiness everywhere. It doesn't want to come out of the container. So molasses is disgusting, but it's probably the right way to make the recipe, so I am including it. Once everything is in, including the molasses, you blend this together until the mixture is smooth. Well, that sort of worked. I miss my stand mixer, but until I become a bodybuilder, I'm not hefting it back and forth every time. Anybody wants to buy me a stand mixer to keep at our Fairmount branch, I would be more than happy to accept that donation. We're going to make another pass to make sure this is all mixed in, and then we're going to call it good. And then you're combining 2 cups of white flour and 2 tablespoons of water to make a stiff dough. One of the tips I found for this recipe was to add more water so that the dough wouldn't be as dry, but in my experience that made it kind of gooey. I probably did something else wrong, so take that advice with a grain of salt. All right. That's probably 2 tablespoons of water. All right, so that is all mixed in. Like I say, when I do it, it comes out more gooey than stiff. But anyway, it's got all the ingredients in it. It smells good, so that's something. And then you put this in the fridge to chill for at least 30 minutes. The other tip said do not skimp on the chilling time. It makes it a lot easier to work with. I can vouch that that is true. All right, it's time for step 2. Once your dough is all chilled and firm, hopefully firmer than this, as always, don't do it my way. It's time to roll it out and cut out the shapes for your gingerbread house/truck stop. And so it says to use a rimless baking sheet. The only rimless or almost rimless thing I have is my pizza pan, so that's why I'm doing it on a pizza pan. Don't do it that way. But don't do it on a normal cookie sheet because it's really hard to roll it out with the edges getting in the way. That's how I messed my first one up. One of the ways. Now, I think you're not supposed to have to do this, but I did have to flour my rolling pin because mine comes out gooey, like I say, so it just gets stuck and frustrating. This is why I said that the making of the dough was the easy part. It's snowing, look at that. Alright, and then the other problem with rolling it out is that you have to keep the cookie sheet from moving. So I'm going to roll this out and show you the next bit. Alright, that's the best I can do. Very sticky dough. Just another proof I did it wrong. Always drop in with your comments and recommendations of what I did wrong. Since I can't actually use these pieces because I don't have an oven here, I'm not too worried about it. But this is one of the reasons, since there isn't much dough and you don't want it to be too thin, to make sure that when you're making your paper pattern, that you don't go too big. I couldn't go too big because as a beginner, it would definitely not go well if I tried to make a big one. But you also need to have enough surface area to make all your pieces. So what I've made to try and make the I-80 truck stop is one rectangle like this that I'm going to make 3 of for the front, the back, and the top, because I learned that if you don't have a roof on it, it doesn't go well, at least when I do it. And then I have a square to be the sides of the building, just like that. And then I have a little door because the I-80 truck stop has this like fancy entryway thing, and I know I can't actually make that, so I'm just adding a little door to the front. And then, of course, I have the arch to go on the top, and the circle for, and the simple entrance, there's a globe instead of, I don't know, whatever it is on the fancy one. So this is how it's supposed to look like the I-80 truck stop, although we know that it's more of a concept. So, start with the biggest piece, because once you have that, you can work the little ones in around, and you just lay it down on the dough, and you take your sharp knife and cut around it. This gooey mess is just pulling everywhere. So I constantly have to scrape off the excess dough that comes off on the knife. But then you have one rectangle. Now the instructions say to leave the pieces in place, but it doesn't say if you leave the excess around it in place. I'm assuming no, so I've been taking the excess off, but if you know better, please let me know, because it's very interesting to me that it doesn't specify, do you leave the excess, do you cut the excess off, I don't know. Cut out a second one. I can count. I've also discovered that precision matters, so when cutting out your pieces, precise cuts are better, though this matters less here, oops, well, who needs corners anyway, then once they've baked and you're cutting them out again, that's where it really counts to make sure it's precise. The paper pieces never want to stay in place. They're sliding all over, or they're getting stuck to the cookie, so they can't make up their mind. And the dough is sticky and going everywhere, and I'm trying to keep it in its shape, and it doesn't want to do that. So basically everything is normal. Alright, well that's sort of a square. Okay, the big important piece I want to make sure to get out is the arch, because honestly, if I was making the choice of like, oh no, I don't have enough batter, I would go with the arch because that would make it a recognizable I-80 truck stop. So we'd stick that in here and cut that out. See, the arch I actually have no idea how to cut. Let's not slice my finger off. I think if I did this again, I would like take a picture of them before they were baked, because when you get them out of the oven and they've spread, remembering what was what is kind of a trick. Like, well, that was probably one of the rectangles, right? Like, especially in this case, this would all meld together and you'd have to remember what was what. So, remove the rest of the excess. Try not to think about what color it is and what it looks like as you scoop it off. Bit. There we go. So you're left with this, with all your pieces cut out, paper pieces removed, so you can see them all there, and all of the excess back in the bowl, which what are you supposed to do with all this? I don't know. And you take this and you stick it in the oven for about 15 minutes or until it's all baked. Now, part of my problem is the recipe's not super specific. I should have realized this, but like the smaller pieces don't need as long to bake. So multiple times I've come out with a burned arch or a burned circle, or the first time with a lot of little pieces, a lot of them were burned and unusable. Do make sure to think about that if you try and do it from scratch, because I always come out with burned bits. So you bake this 15 minutes, and then when it comes out of the oven, it'll have spread and mushed together into a big blob, and you take your paper pieces again and you put them back on top and cut them out so the shape is visible again. So don't panic, it's going to spread. You're just going to cut it right away. Make sure to use oven mitts because the pan will be hot, but you can't wait until the cookies are cooled, or they'll probably break and get all awful and crumbly when you try and cut them when they're cold. Although that could just be because I bake them really badly and they're burned when I try and do it. Once you've got your gingerbread baked and re-trimmed out, which I can't show you because, again, no oven here, but once you've got it baked and, in my case, burned, no matter how hard I tried, you let the pieces cool completely, and then you're down to the really demoralizing part, which is trying to assemble it into what it's supposed to be. Of course, the obvious way is to do royal icing and make icing and then stick it together. For some reason, I decided to be a fancy pants and try and do the supposedly better way to do it, more effective way, and melt sugar to assemble. And that is a very sticky, hot, frustrating business. It still doesn't want to stay up. So we're going to see if it goes any better this time. I make no promises, but you come here for the chaos. You know you do. To use melted sugar is actually not as intimidating as it sounds. If you've seen British Bake Off, sugar work is very, oh no, we have to do sugar work, whatever. It's not that bad. You just put literally you stuff sugar in a pan on the stove, and you just stir it around while it melts. That too smells pretty good. So it's just a matter of waiting for the sugar to melt into a liquidy form and stirring it around while it gets clumpy and gross, and very much trust the process kind of situation. So that's what I've got going on here. I found my hot plate, yay! And I'm just going to keep stirring the sugar around until it melts. If you haven't already, make sure you're licking your beaters and eating the rest of your dough while you are melting your sugar, because it takes a long time. You might as well pass the time with something sweet. And this way you can find out if you overdid it on the ginger. So far, every single time, it has tasted very strong and gingery. I don't know what I'm doing. I followed the recipe. Maybe I have a low tolerance for spices. I don't know. You can see here it's starting to get clumpy and liquidy on the bottom. It's a very good sign. I totally, the first time, didn't believe this would actually work, so I was shocked when I started to see it becoming liquidy. Magic. This is good. Let's trust the process. It's going to get a lot worse from here. Now you're starting to see the caramel color in the bottom. Again, very exciting development. Proves that it actually works. Okay, I have now got sugar permanently crusted on my spoon. Isn't that thrilling? It said not to use something that's going to melt, so I am using a wooden spoon, and now it's just not coming off, which is unhelpful, frankly. Strangely, that's hot, so whatever. That lives there now. It's not coming off. It's fine. I swear at this point it's just refusing to liquefy. It knows I'm waiting for it. Apparently a watched pot that never boils is a real thing. Who knew? I am really glad I got the liquid stage on camera, because now it is just sitting there in little golden clumps. It's very happy to stick to the bottom of the pot, but as for melting, it seems to have decided against that. In theory, it would turn into a nice golden brown liquid, and you would dip your gingerbread pieces into it, and then use that as a glue to stick them together. I don't know if I'll be able to do that, because it's just sitting here doing this. 5 minutes later, I'm still just a librarian standing in front of a hot plate, begging my little sugar rocks to liquefy. I think we've learned not to do this on a hot plate. My only guess is that something about the heat and the temperature is not adequate to get the sugar to melting point, or I messed up somewhere else, I don't know. But if you have melted sugar and made a gingerbread house this way, please drop down in the comments and tell me your tips and tricks for doing this, because I am having no luck at all. Well, if only due to my time constraints today, it looks like the closest we're gonna get to our Gingerbread I-80 truck stop today is this little beauty. Look at that. What in the house of cards? So this is just propped, but you can see the vision, right? See, this is the arch and the door, and normally this would be up there, but I don't have a way to prop it. So my best tip at this point, if you hit the same problem I did, is to go the route of my wonderful coworker's daughter, who said that if you really want to build a good gingerbread house, and you know you're not going to eat it, which, look at the burning on this, I'm not going to eat it, you could use a hot glue gun, and that would hold it together. So shout out to Esme for what would have saved my bacon today if I had a hot glue gun, which I don't. So, ho ho ho, you should go down to Target and buy a kit so that you can focus on the decorating part and not have to mess with the absolute nightmare that is trying to melt sugar. Well, that is a very fun milestone. We actually have our official, undeniable first Baking from Books fail. Not everything has come out well, but that did not work at all. So I'm glad I tried it, though. Never be afraid to try new things. Definitely don't be afraid to try this book. Try this recipe if you have just a little bit more skill than me, because I came so close that I think I could do it if I had more time, energy. If you try it yourself, please share your results with us. Share any tips, tricks, comments that you have with us. I would love to hear any tips you have for me. In the meantime, happy reading, happy baking.